Hey, my name is Bryson Daugherty. I'm a Cason Newman football commit, and this is the No Playbook podcast.
Hey, thank you so much for checking out the show. This is the podcast featuring the outstanding athletes, coaches, and experts from East Tennessee. My name's Casey. Joining me on the show today, Byson Daugherty. I'm pretty excited. He's my first ever athlete I've had on the show from Lenoir City. So that's pretty cool. Bryson comes on to talk about his senior season at Lenoir City and his recent commitment to the football team at Cason Newman. This episode is sponsored by Stinnett Collision, so reach out if you're in need of automotive repair. Again, that's Stinnett Collision with locations in Maryville and Sevier County. I'll get to Byson Daugherty right after this. Sit tight.
Hi, I'm Zach Stinnett, third-generation owner of Stinnett Collision. As a proud supporter of Tennessee athletics, we know that every game counts. When a collision puts you out of play, we're here to get you back in the game. Family owned since 1965, Stinnett Collision now has locations in Maryville and Sevierville. With double the space and a team of certified technicians, we'll tackle your repairs and get you back on the road in no time. Don't let a collision sideline you. Visit Stinnett Collision today.
So thanks for joining me. First, I just want to hear about your senior season at Lenoir City, how that went for you personally and overall as a team.
Yeah, for me, I feel like it went well. I feel like I could have done a little bit better. I had some things happen. I got really sick right after spring ball and lost like 25 pounds. So the entire camp season, all of our summer training and stuff, I was at 290 and I dropped down all the way to 260, 265. So it kind of hindered me a little bit. But overall, we had a really good year, better than most people expected, I believe. Seeing as my junior year, we went 7-5. That was the first winning season we had since 20, I think it was 12. We lost a lot. We lost one of my teammates, Trey Wilhite. He actually ended up going to Cason Newman as well. But very performing guy, had 1,800 rushing yards, over 1,000 through the air as well. But personally, I feel like I did really well. I feel like I showed a lot of people that, I may not be the stellar athlete or may not be the picture perfect college athlete build, but I still can do it.
Well, especially after coming back from that illness and losing so much weight, I think it's pretty impressive that you were still able to put on, a performance good enough to get recruited.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree as well. Going through the entire camp season, I'd been talking to all these coaches, and they were kind of bouncing ideas, and they're like, "So how much did you weigh in today?" And I'm like, 265, and they're like, "What happened?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got sick." Through the whole month of June, I was actually still battling pneumonia. I didn't tell a lot of people that, just because I didn't want it to really hinder, because I felt like I was still performing really well. But at the same time, it kind of, I think it threw some coaches off a little bit when I showed up and I was smaller than they expected me to be. But yeah, I feel like for the circumstances I was under, I felt like I performed really well.
So what was that whole recruiting process like from the moment you even realized I might have a college career to all the way when you signed with Cason Newman?
Yeah, absolutely. It really started because freshman year I came in and I was like, I'm gonna just play football, get over and go to trade school. And then after my freshman season, I didn't play any varsity. I was like 210 pounds. I was a small left tackle. And actually I got reached out. My running back, Chris McCord, I had played with him all throughout, but he's a little bit older than me. He was like, "Make a Twitter." And I was like, "Okay." He said, "You got the height. You'll get something." I was like, "Okay." So I made a Twitter, and actually, Corey Headley, he's now the director of recruiting at Western Carolina, was at Kenyon College. It's a small D3 up in Ohio, and he had reached out and gotten on the phone with me. And I had made a JV tape just because put something out there. And he was actually like, based off your JV tape, I think you're going to be pretty good. I was like, okay. So we kind of kept in contact a little bit. And then leading into my sophomore year, we had a left tackle. He was a stellar athlete, was getting recruited by some big time teams, mostly FCS and G5. And then later in the recruiting process, got some P5 stuff, but stayed in the FCS school. He actually ended up committing to Austin P. His name was Leo Gonzalez. But so he was getting us a little bit of traction going. We hadn't had a guy go to a Division I school or go to any school at all since 2012, since that's the last winning season. We had a couple guys go to Middle Tennessee. And Coach Casey Vance over at Elon, he was the one who came and, told me like, hey, you're getting somewhere, keep going. And so went through my sophomore year, went on a couple of visits. Was going really well. I think that year I went to I think I only ended up going to Kennesaw State and EKU were the two that I ended up going with. And then got into spring ball going into my junior year. Had a couple more coaches come out, Division I, Division II. And that was really where Cason Newman started recruiting me. The coach that had been there, he had went back to high school ball to coach. He's at Greenville now, their running backs coach. And he was like, let me shoot you over to Coach Ray. I was like, okay. So he shot me over to Coach Ray. Coach Ray was, and then me and Coach Ray were texting back and forth. And this is while the old head coach was there. I can't remember his name, but this is under the old staff. So we had talked back and forth. And then junior camp season, I really started catching up. It was going into that my junior campaign. I was like, I really got to prove something here. So we went out. I ended up going on a good amount of visits. I went to back to EKU. Coach Losey was a really good guy in the recruiting process for me. Was consistent, and then he kind of got thrown to the side a little bit by EKU, and it was a big ordeal. But I went to Middle Tennessee, East Tennessee State, EKU. I'd gotten invites from Indiana. I had went up to Coastal Carolina. So I was getting a lot of G5, P5 attention. I feel like I put on a pretty good sophomore campaign, especially in the role I was in. And then my junior campaign kind of built on top of that. And it really was going well, especially that winter kind of area of junior to senior year. I was getting a lot of attention. And then mid-March, it was around this time last year, maybe a little later, Coach Bear Hunter over at Middle Tennessee shot me a follow and texted me. And we had kind of started talking back and forth. And he was like, I really like you. Like, we need to get you here, get you on a visit. I was like, okay. And I remember it like it was yesterday because he had texted me because I was actually supposed to go to University of Louisiana Monroe on a visit. I was going to leave and go down there for 3 days and stay because Coach Butler and Coach Cam Blankenship, they were really wanting to get me in front of Coach Vincent because they felt like I could get an offer if I went down there. And then their practice schedule switched up on me. And I was like, so what do I do? Because I'm not going down there because their practice was only going to be like an hour and a half long. So I wasn't really going to get the opportunity to see what was going on, get everything because they were like flipping everything around. And so Coach Hunter texted me and I had posted that I wasn't going on the visit anymore. And Coach Hunter texted me. And then Coach Kendall Simmons had shot me a text too. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to see what they're doing, like when's their practice. And I had texted them and they're like, listen, we got practice, but it's at 6 a.m. I was like, I'll be there. So I'd gotten up at like 2:30 in the morning, made the trek all the way down there and watched their practice, did everything like that. Coach Hunter and Coach Simmons introduced me to all their guys and ended up giving me an offer that day after. He told me, he was like, it shows some commitment to get up at 6 a.m. or get up at 3 in the morning to come to a practice. And he said, I really like that about you. And we'd kind of been going back and forth and he shot me the offer. And then it kind of picked up. I believe right after that, maybe a couple of weeks, I got Georgetown up in DC. And then I kind of started picking up some small D2s, rolling through my senior campaign. Picked up University of Tennessee Martin mid-October. And what had ended up happening was Middle Tennessee had me and this guy were neck and neck. And they ended up taking him because he had offers. He had more offers than I had. He had offers from the rival school. He had an offer from Western Kentucky, and they were high on his list. And I get it. I will say, at the time, he was a better ball player than I was. I really don't know how I was neck and neck with him. He ended up committing, and they had texted me. It was actually on the first day of official offers. He had shot me a text and was like, "Hey, listen, we have no more spots." And I was like, "Well," and I sat there, and it was right before practice too. I just came down from lift, and I leave my phone in the locker room. I just came down from lift. I checked my phone and seen that text, and I just broke because, like, at the time, that was where I was going. Like, the second he let me commit, I was committing. I was waiting for that official offer to come in. That way I could say, I'm here. Um, and then I went outside and sat on my truck bed, and I was just kind of sitting there, like looking at God and being like, what's going on? Like, what do you want me to do here? And my buddy had came out to check on me, and he just kind of told me, like, God will put you where you want to be. God will put you where you need to be. And that was kind of the moment I knew, like, let's just keep working. So I kept working through the season. And then Morristown East game rolled around, and Coach Peterson, who is the OC at Cason Newman, had texted me, and I had shot him a message and been like, "Hey, I'm playing at Morristown East, which is only about 20 minutes or so from Jefferson City." I said, I'm playing at Morristown East. I don't know what the cycle is going on right now, but if you can make it, I'd love for you to come. And so, my teammate Trey, he had came to watch the game too, because it was only 20 minutes from campus. And I was down on the sidelines warming up, and Trey came up to me. He was like, "Listen," he said, "Coach Peterson, Coach Fleming, and Coach Iruli are all up in the stands." He said, "I wasn't supposed to tell you, but I just want to let you know." I was like, "Okay." And apparently they had been recruiting one of the defensive linemen at Morristown East, had been talking to him through the spring and everything. He was supposed to be like their best defensive lineman. Well, we came out first play, and I flat backed him. And that was kind of a turning point. And they were like, after the game, Coach Peterson told me, like, "Hey, you just put a guy that was pretty high on our board, and you made him look like a baby the entire game." I was like, "Okay." So we kept talking back and forth, and Coach Cummings and Coach Ingram were kind of like good friends, since we both ran the veer, and he had been a veer guy while he was at Navy as well. It had just they found their ways into each other, being really good friends. So, Coach had been talking to him about me, everything like that. And then I started taking my official visits. Took one up to Moorhead in Kentucky. It was a really nice campus, everything like that. And then took one to UVA Wise. And then ended up taking one to Cumberland's in Kentucky. And then took one to Emory and Henry. And I kind of narrowed it down to about 3 schools. It was usually really close with Wise, Cumberland's, and then I was waiting on that Newman visit. And I showed up for the visit, and it was just the way it had happened. I really wanted to commit early. I was like, I don't want to wait, in case something happens, because especially at the Division II and AIA level, I want to make sure I can get the most money possible. And the later you wait, the less money that's there. So they actually made it work where it was just me and one other recruit. There was a guy from Florida. He actually ended up committing as well, which was pretty cool. But we had went through the visit. I went on the campus tour, facility tour, talked to all the strength coaches, the trainers, and talked to a lot of people on campus, which was really cool. They took me down to the building where my major is. It's a brand new building. Let me talk to the head of.
What's that major, by the way?
Head of the. I'll be majoring in exercise science, and then hopefully getting into their master's program, and then transferring out to get my doctorate in physical therapy. So took me into the exercise science building, brand new state-of-the-art facilities, like top-notch stuff you don't see on a small campus like that. And then we went back, and Coach Fleming, he was the offensive line coach. Now he's coaching the quarterbacks and the B-backs. He was like, "Hey, what do you want for lunch?" And have you ever had pals? I was like, "No, I've never had pals. What's pals?" And he was like, "Okay, I'll be back in 5 minutes." I went down to the pals and got it. And apparently it's this big thing. Jefferson City's like known for it or something. I don't know. But we went and did that, and then pulled me into a meeting with Coach Ingram, and ended up I was sitting down there. It was me and my mom and him, and we were just talking. And for the first like 30 minutes, we hadn't talked about any type of football, no money, nothing. He's just talking about his family. We were talking about our family, and he was really getting to know me on a more personal level, just my athletic ability, which is really what I was looking for in a coach. We talked about his kids play lacrosse for Knoxville Catholic, so we were talking about that, and it was like what my sister's playing basketball, like all that kind of deal. And at that moment, I really just knew I was like, this is where I need to be. So we talked numbers, got all the financial part out of the way, and I just kind of sat there for like 3 minutes in complete silence. My mom told me after we walked out of the meeting, she was like, Coach Ingram would look at me, and then he'd look back at you, and you'd just be sitting there looking at the ground, and then he'd look back at me, and we kind of just went back and forth. And then I was just like, Coach, I want to commit. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. He said he got absolutely stoked. Gave him a hugged me, went out of there, went and played around with the coaches for a little bit. They asked me how the meeting went. I was like, it's okay. I said, it's okay. And then they're like, really? And I was like, no, I'm committed. And they all went crazy. It was this big thing, but it was really just the point of like, I think this is where I need to be. The people are great. They have a really good purpose being a Christian college. And Coach Ingram's all about, student first, but also being about Christ first before anything else. And that was really what I was looking for. And so as a whole of my recruiting process, it was very up and down. I didn't know what the next day was going to bring. But I really truly feel like God put me where he needed me to be.
That's a great story, man. I love that. Hearing from where you were at the very beginning, making it through and having to sit there and have that moment of like, I'm going to find something else. And then you did. So that's very, very cool. What about extra training? Do you work out at any of the gyms locally?
Yes. So I'm actually an NIL athlete for our local gym, Lenoir City Fitness Center. When NIL had been established in the state of Tennessee for high school athletes, I had reached out to him, and I had like a whole breakdown of like all the rules. Here's what you need to know. Like I brought it down to like what's going to happen. Here's how you can do it. Here's how you don't get in trouble. Here's how I help you. Like I made it into a whole thing. I did my research, and he was like, I've never had somebody like, I know this is new, but I've never had somebody like break it down for me and really just want to be a part of it. And I was like, I want to help you, and it'll help me in the process. So we were all for it. So I'm actually an NIL athlete there, and I work out there. And then I do a lot of training on my own, field work. A lot of the local offensive linemen, we all get together and just really work. It was this big thing. And then especially when I was younger, like sophomore, junior year, guys like Leo, and then the guy, we had a kid named Egan Rains, and he was a big mentor for me, not only as an athlete, but spiritually as well. Stand-up guy. But, those guys always pushed me to be better, and we'd get on the field, and it's like we're going. So a lot of extra training went into it. A lot of stuff people didn't see, but I really feel like that's what put me where I needed to be. People always say, train when no one's looking, and you'll reap the benefits, and I truly feel like that was the case.
Yeah. You mentioned Trey Wilhite earlier, right when NIL broke. I put together the pieces. That was a D1 training at the time. I put together a deal for him there.
Yeah,
So
no,
cool.
absolutely. Yeah, he's a great kid. I think he's actually stepped away from football now. I think God's putting him in another place, showing him really needs to be. I feel like he made a good decision there to really focus on his faith and get where he needs to be with God. But
yeah, cool.
I love that kid.
Well, best of luck. Is there you mentioned some players? Are there any coaches that have led you along the way that have like super inspired you?
Yeah, absolutely. His name is Travis Cozart. You may know him. He's a local legend around East Tennessee. Back in the 90s, he was I believe the number one safety in the nation and number two recruit in the nation. He was my little league coach. He's got a story. If you ever have the time, it's on YouTube. Just look up Travis Cozart's story. He played for UT, had the opportunity to go play ball in the pros, got in some trouble, and his life led him down a path he fully regrets. But he really put back into us what he didn't have, and truly told us like, "Hey, I know how to get there. I know how I messed up. Here's what you need to do." And that guy's been an absolute blessing to me. He did individual training when I was younger. It'd be me and him out there, 95 degrees. I'd be yakking like it was the full nine. I'd want to leave. My mom would tell me no. My mom said, "Get back out there." And he was like, he can quit if he wants to. And she's like, "No." So between him and my mom, man, I'm truly blessed to have that guy in my life, and I'm forever thankful for him. He's been the backbone, along with Coach Richie Wilhite. He's been my coach all the way from Little League up and through high school. He's my defensive coordinator. He's now getting his opportunity at Greenback High School as the head coach down there. Between them two, those are the backbones of my entire journey. And I think without them, I'd be in a very different place right now.
Excellent. I hope they get to hear that story.
I hope they do too.
Inspired. So 2 more really quick things everybody gets. One is, what's something that very few people know about you?
Shoot. I play guitar and I write a little bit of music. It's not a big thing for me. I play guitar and I sing. I'm in our choirs back at school. And it's just became a passion to me. I grew up, my grandfather, he's really into music. He used to go do cover shows all the time when I was younger. So I've just kind of grown up, in a musical background, and that's something that I really enjoy, and not a lot of people know. Some people know. I bring the guitar to school and sit there and play every once in a while. But
yeah. And then what's an unforgettable sports memory for you?
Shoot, it has to be. I think it's this year. Triple overtime game, Walker Valley, round one of the playoffs at home. That was. That one shot my heart rate up a little bit. We came into it like they put us out last year. Second round of the playoffs, they put us out. We came into it like round one, like, hey, this is it. Like this is coming down to the wire, and we got them out really quickly, and then let them come back. And we were all tired, and then they were like, and then fourth quarter, we had to drive all the way down the field. We were at like the 20-yard line. And we weren't a passing team. Like, by no means did we like to pass the ball. We wanted to be down somebody's throat, like running it. But we had to get like 60 yards, and it was like a minute, less than that. And one of my teammates and one of my best friends, Jackson Nutter, told coach, like, hey, throw me the ball, I'll catch it. I was like, oh, God. I said, we haven't practiced this. And he just ran a deep right. Luke Chadwick, our quarterback, throws it. Jackson, he looks over his shoulder, just right in the breadbasket. It was a perfect ball. Ran it down, got us down, and then we ended up driving it in and scoring. Went into overtime, went back and forth. They got into this. They had this really good wide receiver, but they put him in the Wildcat. And our defense, we just didn't know what gap they were going to try and throw him in. So we were going back and forth with it. And got to the third overtime, and I hadn't been playing a lot of defense to this point yet. But this game, we had actually one of our defensive linemen, God bless his soul, he was dealing with some things and couldn't play. So I had to play a lot more defense that game. And we went out there for that third one. And we were on a veer, 12 veer, like 13 veer. And then what had happened was our running back came through the hole. And when he went to cover, he fumbled and jiggled it a little bit. It fell on the ground. Our fullback came right behind him, picked it up, scooped and scored, got into the end zone. We were like telling coach, like, hey, go for two. He made us kick the field goal. And he was like, I trust our defense. I trust Coach Wilhite. So we get back out there. At this point, I had played like 125 plays. It was absolutely horrible. Like I was dying. And I knew that they were trying to roll out their quarterback and get it to this wide receiver because they didn't put themselves in wildcat. And so I get off the ball and I was the edge player. My goal was to set the edge. I run through the right tackle's face, long armed him, and then I took the running back and literally like chucked him back into the quarterback. He threw a high ball, threw another high ball, and then third down came. We stuffed him. Fourth down came. I ran through, and luckily we had just played prevent in the back, and I put some pressure on the quarterback, made him throw a high ball, and ended up throwing through the back of the end zone. Won it. It was absolutely astounding. I'll never forget that moment.
Outstanding, man. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. I appreciate you having me on.
yeah, and also your flexibility so we can get this in before Tennessee's tip-off.
Absolutely. I'm going to try and watch a little bit. I got work at 2, but I'm going to at least watch a little bit of it.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks again so much. I'll have this out in a couple weeks.
Absolutely. I appreciate you.
See you, man.
See ya.